Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. Today's episode is for every agent who's working hard but not seeing the results they know they're capable of. Because our guest today didn't start from a big network, deep pockets, or a real estate background. In fact, they started in the classroom, a product of the Toronto District School Board. Mr. Sedge Park, or Mr. Park, as his students formerly called him. But through discipline, strategy, and a relentless commitment to growth, they made one of the toughest transitions in this industry and became a top producing agent right here in Toronto. In today's episode, we're unpacking exactly how he did it, from the mindset shifts to the daily actions to the mistakes he made. And he had to learn the hard way so you can apply the same principles in today's challenging market. If you've been stuck, inconsistent, or just trying to figure out what actually moves the needle right now, this episode is one you absolutely do not want to miss. Welcome to another episode of No Agent Left Behind, Tactical Mastery, Real Results. It brings me great honor, great pleasure to introduce Mr. Sedge Park. He is an incredible human being. We're going to unpack everything, Sedge. I kind of chat GPT'd your intro, but for the very few people that don't know who you are, give us a quick little Coles Notes breakdown of kind of who you are and how you got into this business.
Sure. Okay. Thanks for having me on. Quick intro bio would be, I'm a former high school teacher. So Steve and I actually met at church, and I remember him approaching me and asking me about real estate. And I was telling him, no, you know what? I'm happy to be a teacher. Long story short, after 16 and a half years, finally, I gave in to Steve's recommendation of getting my license. I'm a family guy. I have two beautiful children, married to a beautiful wife. I'm a man of faith. Go to Capstone Church. Very proud of that. And I'm a member
Shout out to Capstone.
Yes. And I'm a member of the Stephen Kim Group.
Okay. Or SPG, like you could like to call it, right, Sedge?
Soon to be.
The soon-to-be SPG group. Awesome. Okay. Well, you know what? As we have people tuning in right now, I have a list of questions that I want to get to you. And really the focus is around kind of tactical mastery, the strategies, maybe the challenges and obstacles that you faced early on in your career to get to where you are now. And so I know you're such a humble guy, Sedge, and I know we were going back and forth between the thumbnail and stuff like that. I ask you, but I'm going to do it anyways. But can I just share kind of the trajectory so people have relevance around it? Because when we hear top producer, I think, well, everyone's a top producer. Everyone gets awards. I think the numbers is what really qualifies the reason why you're here. Is that okay? And I know it's cringy.
You're going to do it anyway.
I'm going to do it anyways.
Why you're asking.
So go ahead. So Sedge asked me, he's like, hey, bro, getting into real estate. He's like, what do you think my income is going to look like? And that's a valid question, right? You have a mortgage, you have a family, like you have financial goals, you have a very set salary as a teacher. And that's a very valid question. And I said, in your first year, you're probably going to make half of your teaching salary. Now at that point, you're making about 100K. And lo and behold, sorry. I think your first year, you made just under 50,000. I think it was like 47,000 and change.
Correct.
Gross. In your second year, though, you shot up. And I know you don't like hearing this number, but for everyone listening and who's going to watch us later on, he shot up to over 500,000 gross in his second year. And don't forget, he got his license during COVID when the market was behaving in a way that no one had ever seen. And it's only been this incline from there in terms of your income. And so I know you don't like talking about it, but it gives great context for everyone who's listening, because you have such an incredible journey in your last, almost 5 years in real estate. So
yeah, I'm okay talking about it, but I hate to do this, but small correction. It wasn't until my third year that I reached those numbers.
Awesome.
And awesome. A little bit of, peel back the curtain, and behind the scenes, Steve had shown me the graphic, and the title was different. You want to share what the title was?
Yeah, it was, what was it? It was from rookie to
500K in 2 years. And my text message to you was, please, bro, change the title.
He's like, well, I like this one better though. Classrooms to closings. I freaking love that.
I love it too.
Yeah, so from teacher to top producer.
Yes. So on that, classroom to closings, I almost feel like it should be it should be classroom to calling. We'll get into that a little bit more,
Oh,
but this is truly my calling,
I
and
love it. I
I'm
love it.
grateful for it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's
Same
get right
way
into it.
that
So
mm,
yeah, yeah. So Sedge, what did you understand early that others didn't? Like, what did you understand early about real estate, the career, what agents were doing that other realtors don't?
so I had the advantage of kind of speaking to you and you kind of giving me the lay of the land, the blueprint, and I understood that this was going to take time. It was exciting for me to think, oh, I could make this much in my first year. And then within my second year, I could potentially make. Do you remember we had a talk and I was like, bro, you told me that by my second year, I could expect to be making this much. Where did you get that number? Because I didn't hit that number. And your response was, never could we have imagined to have this many interest rate hikes in such quick succession, right? But even though I went through that grind and didn't see the success that I was hoping for right away, it ended up being the biggest blessing because it taught me to really grind it out. And I'm glad that I started off my career that way. Because if it had started where things were just easily coming to me, it would have gotten to my head. I would have thought, this was easy and I don't have to work hard.
So that moment from burden to blessings really helped to create the environment for you to grow, to accelerate your career. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, it's that level of grit and resilience that you had. You were forced to have it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When you were getting your real estate license.
Yeah, yeah. But to answer your question, what most new agents don't understand that it does take time, and also it does take full-time commitment. This is not something you can just dabble in, especially if you want to see a certain trajectory. You're going to have to go all in.
Awesome. Awesome. What did your first and second year look like? Let's do a kind of a compare and
Yeah.
contrast. First year to second year. Like between you and I, bro, like we know all the tiers, right?
Yeah.
There's a big,
Senior,
but
I
between
was
first
very
and second year,
yeah.
what did that look like for you?
It was absolutely terrifying. My
Mm,
first year at the beginning, I think you could remember, like I was giddy. I was so excited. I was like, sign me up for everything. And I did do everything. And
yeah.
then, it quickly dawned on me, wait a second, I only saved up this much amount and that was depleting. And I knew that it was going to be tough at the beginning. That's another tip I'd give to new agents. Make sure that you do have a little bit of a savings, a little bit of a cushion, because you don't want to be working out of desperation. That's one thing that I learned, because clients can sense that. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so today I want to break up our talk, right? There's going to be pretty much like 5 main pillars. So the first pillar is going to be around kind of the foundations. The second is lead generation. Third is conversion. Fourth is systems. And fifth is mindset. So for today's talk, those are going to be the 5 pillars. Again, foundation, lead gen, conversion, systems, and mindset. So I really want to kind of pack this in tight for the next 20 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
So early in your career, let me ask you this, like, where did most of your business come from?
Early on, it was friends and family, my
Okay.
SOI. People
Okay.
who
And that
are
was your,
they may not have necessarily trusted me because they knew I was new, but it did come from people who knew that I had a good heart, that I was honest.
what was the biggest challenge there? Because one of the biggest challenges I had in this transition from teaching to real estate was like, Steve, what do you know about real estate? Yeah, you're a great teacher, but this
Yeah.
is business, right? And I had to make sure that I didn't take offense to that because
Yeah.
this is everyone's nest egg at the end of the day, and they want the most and they want the best service. But did you face any of that as you were transitioning
Yeah.
over?
I did. And, I think for me and for you, teaching was such a great preparation into
Mm,
real estate. There are a lot of things that transitioned and transferred perfectly. Like you need to have a lot of patience, you need to have a lot of empathy, and you need to know how to prepare. And so, you know, preparing for showings, that's just like preparing for my lessons and preparing for listings. You have to really know how to educate your clients and frame it in a proper way.
okay. How did
So
you
that,
dominate that lead source? So database and Sphere was your number one lead source. How did you go about dominating that lead source? Because every top producer, every
mhm.
viable real estate agent, team, business understands that more than 50% of your business will come from the
Yeah.
people that know, like, and trust you.
Well, I didn't dominate it right away. Trust, one of the questions that you had asked me was like, how do you build trust quickly? For me, it's not quickly. It's something that you have to build over time. And so the referrals, I'm only starting to see that in my third and fourth year, and I know that those referrals would come by just doing a great job. So my brand is what my clients will tell all their friends and family. And I understood that early on. So I treated every client as if they were my only client.
Okay, so the one thing I was going to ask is, how do you do that though? How do you build trust? Yes, it takes time, but is there something that the audience can start doing now, maybe with their database and their sphere, to start, I'm not going to say fast tracking trust, but maybe enhancing the level of trust in their professional relationships with their clients?
When I think about this, I want to answer in a way where it's not fluffy, it's not, idealistic, but this is my honest truth. This is my truth, right? If you want to build that trust, you have to really be self-aware. And early on, very early on, I would say within the first few months, I said, bro, you got to keep me humble. And I think there was a little bit of misunderstanding there. Share with me, how did you take that? Did you take that as like,
yeah, 100%. Because, not that I hate to say this, but the reality is there are a lot of real estate agents who have very large egos, and I get it, because it's like we deal with lots of money, right? Quick deals and stuff. And so that's what I took away from it, was just making sure that your ego didn't get out of hand.
So my prayer from the very beginning was that this would not be about just money. Obviously money is a part of it. I didn't want it to be the number one determining factor of me switching careers. And so I knew that it would have to come from a place of doing the best for my client. And that sounds like everyone should do that. And everyone says that they do that, having their best interest, but truly having their best interest, that is so rewarding in the end. So I'll give you an example. Okay, so big shout out to my brother-in-law. I love him. He gives me a lot of referrals. That's not why I love him, but he is a manager. He's got high net worth clients. And so one of these clients that he brought forward was the two doctors, right? Both of them are radiologists. And I got on the phone with them, just hearing about what they wanted to do. They want to downsize from their home and buy a condo. And so at the end of the consultation, the question was, what is your budget? And they said 5 million. And I literally choked on my spit, like, excuse me? And they said 5 million. Long story short, we went to go and see these $5 million properties, and they were stunning, and they wanted it. But listening to their true desires, what they really wanted was proper location and to be close to family, close to church. Yep. So I kept coming back to this $2 million property, still very good price point, but obviously less commission than the 5 million, which we could have gone for. We ended up purchasing the $2 million property. They're doing renovations. It was the right choice. That is having your client's best interests at heart. And it's a joy to see like them coming to me and saying, thank you. We know and we recognize that this is not the same, but now we entrust you to sell our home, which is in a very nice area.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love, not looking at the dollar amount, but looking at the outcome is really, really important, right? So setting your client up in the best possible way is going to help you, and it has helped you in your career. Sedge, share with me. I know one of the things that early on that you struggled with was the tracking and the measuring. Yeah. Especially being on this team, right? Being a Tom Ferry coach, being here, doing this, like I am relentless on this. Yeah. Give everyone who's listening and watching, give us a breakdown of kind of like, what were the number of conversations you would strive to do early on in your career compared to now? And was there one thing that you would say during this conversation that you felt helped you to convert at a higher level? So let's start. Let's break it down. How many conversations from early to now were you having per day? And then what's the one thing that maybe helped you to convert stronger?
Okay. So before I go there, can you explain the 100-day challenge that you had us do? Just in a nutshell, what was that?
Yeah, you have to have as many conversations as you possibly can to book an appointment a day. So we're trying to get 100 appointments in 100 days.
Yeah. So 100 appointments in 100 days, obviously that is unrealistic, but it's a goal and it pushed us, right? And
Mhm.
pushed me. And I know that in those 100 days, I managed to get 36 appointments. Not bad. Of those
Awesome.
36 appointments, that resulted in 3 closings. Pretty good. That's a 12-to-1 ratio. 12
Yep.
appointments to 1 closing. Those numbers are different now. They're better, but that's what it took. And I didn't do a great job of tracking the number of conversations, but if I were to guess, to get those 36 appointments, it would hundreds, in the
Hundreds.
hundreds, over 300. Let's just call it 300 and whatever, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So if it took me 300 conversations to get 36 appointments, that's a 10-to-1 ratio. So I know that I knew that I had to have a number of conversations. The risk for me is that, and everybody's different, but I didn't want to get to the point where it became such a chore and such a burden that I would burn out from it.
Yep.
So to combat that, I would be very selective, and not very selective, but I would choose where I would want to have those conversations. For example, at church or the gym or with people I enjoy spending time with on the golf course.
So not much of a cold caller you are, right?
Well, that was part of it. And it was,
Yep.
that taught me how to have the proper conversations and, more importantly, how to ask the right questions.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. Like, the people that don't know you don't maybe not necessarily like you. They don't trust you because they don't know you. It's like, go play in that arena, have those conversations, make those mistakes over there versus the people that already know, like, and trust you. Those are the people where you got to show up on point. So I'd rather
Mhm,
practice with the people that don't know me and make all those mistakes and learn from that to then be really, really good for the people over in this arena, right? Breaking down your numbers, though, I'm a big numbers guy. So 36 appointments, 3 closings, right? So every 12 appointments leads to 1 closing. That's an 8% conversion.
mhm,
That's an 8% conversion. So when I book an appointment to then getting a closing, that's an 8% conversion. Trying to get to the appointment, if I have over 300 conversations to 36, that's a 10% conversion. So I have a 10% conversion from a call to an appointment. Then I have an 8% conversion from the appointment to the close. And most of you are being like, holy crap, like
we've
you really
lost the
break down.
I
Yeah, like you're like you really break down the numbers like that, Steve. Yeah, I do, because it's called running a business. And so sitting down with Sedge and agents, and if you're a solo agent, really understanding these numbers is going to propel your business. But you got to start somewhere. You got to know your numbers. And Sedge, you just said my numbers are better now. So does
Mhm,
it take you 12 appointments now to get 1 closing? 5 years, starting 5 years in your business. Are you
mhm,
there? No.
no.
Your conversion's way stronger.
Yeah, it's better than half of that. So
Now,
it's
is there
maybe
one yeah. Is there
maybe
one thing that you found you would share or you would say to get clients maybe off the fence or put their hand up to be like, "Yes, I do
okay,
need advice."
great question. So before I answer this, to backtrack, I, I I'm aware of our audience and I want to make sure that this is valuable. And in order for us to have those conversations, you really do have to place an importance on script practice. And so we have the added benefit of that on the team. You don't have to have a team. You just have to have someone who's willing to practice with you. Before, you don't want to practice with your clients. But some of the conversations that we'll have as a team and we'll be prepared for, are the questions that we're getting from our clients. So one of the questions or one of the comments that I'll get is, Sedge, we're just not ready. Okay, why aren't you ready? There's just too much uncertainty. There's, everyone knows what's going on in the world. And the question that I will ask is, what type of certainty are you waiting for? You
Oh,
know,
can you repeat that again?
what type of certainty are you waiting for? To have them articulate, and some of them, they haven't really thought about that. Well, actually, I'm waiting for this, and that. And my follow-up question will be like, how many other people do you think are waiting for that same thing? And what do you think will happen if everyone is waiting for that and it occurs? And finally, what type of market, right? Would you rather be shopping for, in something frenetic or something where we have choice, where we can negotiate, we can put in all the conditions?
Now,
That's
Sedge, Sedge, that's a phenomenal. I hate saying script, but script,
Mhm.
right? You could share that with everyone, the audience and everything. But what do you think is your magic sauce in the delivery? Because just because I read it, just
Yes.
because I have it, doesn't mean I can deliver it. I'll say it again. Just
Mhm.
because I can read it, just because I have it, doesn't mean I can deliver it. What is your secret sauce?
The secret sauce is curiosity.
Ah,
You
I'm
have
glad
to
you said
be
that.
you can't just be asking the questions. I genuinely wanna know, what is the holdup? What type of uncertainty are you talking about? Because I don't wanna make any assumptions. So I'm naturally curious. I wanna know. And so I do ask a lot of questions, right? So
Would you
that's
say,
my sauce.
yeah. Would you say that magic sauce is the reason why clients choose you over other agents in your marketplace? Because for those who don't know, I'm just going to put out the district. Sedge lives in W08,
Mhm.
right? And so I remember early on, he's like, bro, I want to do geo farm, right? It's my time to do geo farm and I want to farm my area. And I'm like, you're going up against the number 1 and then the number 2 geo farm agents in TREB, the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. And I remember, do you remember what I said to you?
You said,
I,
"Are you crazy?" I just
I was like, let's go
yeah.
because they're not for everyone and you bring something different, right?
Yeah.
But what is it? Why do you think clients choose you?
Okay, I'll share a story. This is not necessarily the best answer, but it's what happened. So I was actually up against one of those top agents for a listing in the area, and it was she is elderly. She was in her 90s, and she asked me the question point blank, like, "Why Sedge Park?" And my answer was, because I'm likable. And I cringed when I said it, but I went on to explain, most people think that you need to have an agent who's going to fight. Yes, we do fight, but it has to be a cooperation between us and the cooperating. That's why it's called cooperating agent.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to not only build rapport, but once you build that rapport and trust, you've got to be able to educate the other side and coach them.
Ah,
And so that's what I was articulating. And then furthermore, if you were to ask my mom, if you were to ask her, what is my gift? Truly, what it comes down to is just having a warm heart. Now, what does that mean? What is having a warm heart? It boils down to having empathy.
okay.
So being sensitive, right? Not overlooking, really understanding and not projecting what I think they need, or even what the other family members who are involved in the deal think that the seller needs.
That level of empathy. And said, do you want to share the image that you shared with the team regarding what empathy is? Because we all know the term of empathy, but you gave such a great visual to support what empathy is. Yeah, that illustration. Can you share that with everyone?
Yeah, I can't remember who shared it. It must have been, at a retreat or Sunday school or something. But someone told me that the difference between sympathy and empathy, or even going back to apathy, apathy would be, you see a big hole and someone has fallen in that hole. Apathy is to not even bat an eye, just, you walk right past them. Sympathy would be to say, "Oh man, that sucks. You know, can I give you some food? Can I give you some water?" Empathy is getting into that hole with them to feel exactly what it is that they're going through. Now, there is, obviously going in there with a ladder or with a rope first would be smart. And that to me, it illustrates my biggest mistake was having too much empathy. I'm an empath. I feel everything. And so my mistake was feeling it to the point where it's like they're in tears, I'm in tears too. But they don't need me to be crying with them. They need me to be their rock.
Mhm.
They need me to get the job done. So yes, I'm going to feel it, but there's a balance.
Yeah, and there's a balance, and let me qualify that, right? Being the rock doesn't mean being unemotional to it.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
why Sedge is so good at what he does is because he truly is putting himself in the shoes of a buyer, a first-time buyer, a move-up buyer, a downsizing buyer, a first-time home seller, a move-up seller, a downsizing seller. You have literally gone through the gamut of every single process. And
Mhm.
so that experience has helped you to cultivate this level of professionalism where you are the guide. And as agents, we get paid to be the guide but you can only be you can only be an exceptional guide if you've gone through the process either personally or professionally multiple times and said you are an absolute, I hate saying a killer in that. You are so good at cultivating that level of empathy and ultimately being the best choice for people at different stages in their real estate process. So awesome. Let's continue moving on. So that's a little bit around conversion. My last question around conversion is this, because there's a lot of agents I've spoken to that are struggling with getting their clients to commit, whether it's getting them to commit to them or commit to the process of maybe buying or selling. What do you do to move clients from kind of that intro looking to then committing to you or committing to offering?
What I found recently is they are looking for confidence. They're looking for, and confidence only comes from knowing the process. And it's not something that I knew right away. And so I knew that it would just take some experience. But now I am coming from a place of, I am your guide. I am your advisor. And it's great when you know the questions that they're going to be asking. And it's even better when you have the proper answers for them. They need to be led. They need to know that you're going to be super communicative. You know, I even tell them I'm going to over communicate, and they're like, we love that, right? But yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like you said something, you're going to lead, and like basic human psychology is this: there are very few leaders. Most people want to lead, they just don't know how to lead. So inherently, as a species, we like to follow. Right. That's why there's only like one leader of a pack. Like most humans want to follow, but we need a plan and a process to follow when we're being led by someone. Okay, let's move on to systems. Hey, Sej, like share with us, when did you feel overwhelmed in your career?
I still
Like,
feel overwhelmed.
Okay, so what causes you the most overwhelm in your career?
When I'm just flying by the seat of my pants, when I feel like I'm winging it.
Okay.
I haven't been in the best practice of using the systems that I know will alleviate some of that anxiety, but I'm getting better at it.
Share with us, what systems are you talking about? What systems do you wish you were more consistent on? I can share with the audience.
Sure.
No. But what systems do you want to be more consistent on? And for everyone listening and watching, like pay attention to this, because this is gonna, like, I say this all the time, this will expedite your growth and efficiency as an agent.
If it were just boiled down to one thing, it would be the CRM. So for us, it's Lofty. And I never really understood the importance. I would tell you, like, this is slowing me down. You know, systems like Lofty or Sisu, like having to input everything, this is slowing me down. And it took me and my hard head a number of years actually to realize, oh, when I open up Lofty and I see the people, my clients, and the number of people I haven't reached out to in a long time, it's a huge benefit to be able to just go to it and put in the reminders, put in the events, put in the notes. And so I know exactly where I've left off. And it's just one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, like it really removes the heavy lifting. And what I love about Lofty, and I know FUB has this, they have AI built-in integrations where they will scrub your calls and your notes, and they will prompt you on things to say or to bring up on the next call. Like that is AI at its best with regards to our CRM, right? And what I also love is you can set up all the alerts and action plans for follow-up. And we all know this, your fortune is made in the follow-up. So I can wake up on a Friday morning and be like, here are the 7 people that I need to reach out to. I go into my CRM and the AI plugins have already told me, hey, these are some of the talking points and routes you may want to navigate this client with. So if you're not into your CRM, and this is why every top producing agent, team lead, business coach will tell you, your business thrives or dies based on your CRM, how much you utilize your CRM, right? And so I love that you said that. Let's move over to mindset. What belief gave you an edge, right? And, I know one of the things you struggled with, Sej, is playing small. You're such a humble guy. You don't like the attention. You do not like the limelight as much as I try to force it on you.
Yeah.
What belief gave you the edge? Yeah. And this is not for you to play small. This is for Sej, that maybe that student who, you taught years ago, that's now listening, looking at you and being like, yeah, Mr. Park, that's right. Like What's the belief that gave you an edge in this business?
A lot of it was the internal belief. A lot of it was, related to my faith. But, if I really look back and consider, it's the belief that other people also had in me. My belief, I always knew that everything would work out, but it's a different thing when you've got people who you trust, people who you love and who love you, that are speaking truth into you. And I know that belief, a lot of it was you. You would tell me, these are the things that you should expect. And the number of times where I would come into your office in tears and have so many doubts. But, I can say with complete honesty that from the start till now, things that you did instruct and advise me on, they have come into fruition. So I'm very, very thankful.
Not about me. It's
the question.
Yeah, Steve Kim plug-in right here. Sedge, 5 year, almost fully 5 years into the business, is there one maybe deal, client, thing that happened that you can easily say without a shadow of a doubt has been the hardest moment for you in real estate? What is that?
Oh man, there are so many, but two really stick out. I don't know if but I had had a family member who was selling their house, and one of the movers for the staging company, I can tell like they were thirsty, so a small act of kindness got them a drink. That led to him referring his mother-in-law over to me, and that was in Mimico area. There are some areas that are just a little bit whatever, questionable. And at that time, I went and it was early in my career, so I'm going to take anything. But as soon as we were at the property and just about to go in, the client turned to me and said, "Sedge, just so you know, my son is there. And unfortunately, he's chosen the life of drugs. And so it's unpredictable. I don't know what we're about to walk into." Walking into the home, it was, house. And the first thing he says is to his mom, "I know so many agents, and you brought this guy off the street." And, for me, I'm new. I'm like, "Hi, I'm Sedge." Nice. That was the most challenging deal, especially at that time, because of the number of emotional hurdles that I had to handle. Yeah, that was the hardest.
Okay. Yeah, that's hard. Sedge, what's the difference between $100,000 agent and a $500,000 agent? What's the one thing? Okay.
Yeah, commitment. So it has to be, going back to what I said earlier, you got to go all in. At the beginning of my career, I knew that it would have been so much easier to just do this part-time. In my mind, I was thinking, why am I going to give up teaching? Why am I going to give up the security, the benefits, the pension, when I could just be doing both half-time? That would have been a complete disservice. And I don't want to knock anybody who's doing, there are plenty of agents who are doing part-time and they're killing it, right? But for me, I know that in order for me to have reached my success, there's no way I would have reached it doing it part-time.
Share with me though, when you say commitment, the difference between full-time and part-time, there's a lot of full-time agents that are still struggling. What do you think it is though, with regards to commitment for those full-time agents? Like commitment to what?
There's no secret that it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. So committing to your priorities, at the beginning, I had to sacrifice everything, including my time with the family, which, was the hardest part for me. Even to this day, the biggest challenge is finding that balance. But what does that mean? It means letting go of other things, right? Saying no to friends, going out, playing golf. That was hard.
That was painful.
Yeah. Anyway.
Awesome. Okay. Last three questions I'm going to ask. We are going over. I'm not stopping this because there's just so much value. Last three questions. Hey, Sedge, share with us. What's the one thing you do starting over in this career? So kind of, looking at hindsight's always 2020. What's the one thing that you would change starting over?
I know that in the first little while, it required a tremendous amount of sacrifice. I know that there wasn't going to be a lot of balance, but if I were to do it again, I would place more importance on taking care of myself, because, the burnout was real and it took a while for me to recover. And I even knew, you warned me that I would be hitting a wall because
Yep.
the pace at which we go, right?
Yeah.
Had I known what I know now, I would have placed an importance on making sure that I'm holistically well. If I'm not whole, then I'm no good to anybody. And so that means hitting the gym in the morning, having my quiet time, making sure that I am starting my day off with a good routine.
Great. So that invest in yourself. Yeah. Invest in yourself first thing in the morning. Okay. What do you think agents should stop doing in this market right now? So 2026, Q1's under our belt, heading into Q2. What should agents stop doing?
I think, I'm guilty of this too. So this is just one practical piece of advice. Agents should stop posting senseless things on social media. We think that by bigging ourselves up and showing a certain amount of closings or whatever, like, we think that this is what's going to build the trust. There are other things that are more important, and I'm now shifting gears as well towards taking a more educational approach. So
Love it.
Yeah. Social media. Careful what you're posting. Like,
be careful what you're posting.
Yeah. What's the reason?
Schwab. And for those people who have seen Sedge's most recent video, you should go check it out because it is a phenomenal listing video. And all I'm going to say is Schwab again. Big shout out to Jess Lee. Those are her sunglasses. Jess, thank you so much for your sacrifice and commitment. Okay, Sedge, last question is this. Finish this statement for me. For an agent, let's say Toronto or anywhere, let's just say for a real estate agent to make $500,000, $500,000 by year 2 or 3, they must fill in the blank.
Burn the boats. You have a sign behind you, be great, be kind. I have a sign. There was a sign when I was looking for this one, there was a sign that says burn the boats. It actually said burn the effing boats, right? And I was going to buy that one because that early on when I was deciding, I spoke with my life coach, David Lee, shout out to you. And he was highly recommending that I go all in. You have to burn the boats because if you don't, if you have that safety net, you're always going to be tempted to go and do other things. It will distract you. So you have to be all in. You have to focus. You have to burn the boats, the safety nets.
Love it. Love it. Okay, we're going to go 1 minute because we have a couple of questions coming up right now. Jenny says, what kind of certainty are you waiting for? I absolutely love that. At SCatEng89 says, Sedge, do you spend money on online lead gen?
We did before as a team, not so much anymore. But yeah, most of my business is coming from SOI, as I mentioned. And the next two it's pretty much a tie. It would be my farm and also open houses. That's where I'm getting most of, and now it's becoming referrals and repeat business.
Yeah. Let me qualify that. So at SCatEng89, I spent 1 month on online lead gen. I spent $389. I ended up getting a couple of dozen leads, and then I shut off the taps after 30 days because I've never done it before. I wanted to try it. Did it with the team. We flopped. It just, some people kill it. It's just not part of our business. At Shark Realty asks, what would you say is your weakness and how do you navigate through that? So sorry, anyone else has questions, please drop them in the link, the chat right now. We're going to do this for about 1 minute. Any Q&A for Sedge. So what would you say is your weakness and how did you navigate through that? Great question.
I think you would agree with me that I'm disorganized. And so that even goes back to the systems, right? I know that for my own peace of mind and my own mental health, I need to be organized. And so I'm moving towards that right now, but it is definitely my weakness. So how am I doing that? I'm, building this office is a part of it. I'll show you. I'll turn this around. So this is something that I've dreamt up. I don't know. Can you still see?
Yep.
So I have on this side of my office now my whiteboard and my calendar. Just having this space where I can put everything down and begin to track and measure properly has been wonderful. So I know that I'm very fortunate to have this space. It's what's combating my weakness of being disorganized. I just need to have a place for everything.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Chris Ramatora says, this is great. Thank you for sharing. Oh my God, that was me. I love it. Big shout out to Chris. Okay, so Sedge, for the people who don't know where you exist online and on socials, where do people need to go find you, track you, hunt you down? Where should people go to communicate with you as well?
So my address is, my handle is Sold by Sedge on Instagram. You can find me there.
That's SOLDBYSEJ at Sold by Sedge. Hey, Sedge, I just want to say thank you so much for really opening up the hood, unpacking everything in your almost 5 years of real estate, sharing with everyone the knowledge, the scripts, your failures, and ultimately your just genuine authenticity. We really, really appreciate that. Appreciate you on this. Last word, Sedge. What's the last thing that you want everyone watching and hearing this YouTube live walks away with? What's that one thing that's going to be really impactful for them for the rest of 2026?
You know, there are, oh man, okay, I'll just keep it to two things. Human needs, basic human needs. We need growth and we need generosity. So by generosity, I mean, you know, giving of yourself. Giving is what's going to actually bring about more gratitude, and it's a very good positive cycle. And it's not just positive thinking, it's actually intelligent. So I would say seek to grow and be generous.
Okay. I love that. I love that. Okay. Thank you everyone for tuning in. For everyone who's live right now, thank you so much for your continued commitment on the Friday. For everyone who's going to be listening on Spotify and watching this afterwards on YouTube, we just want to say thank you so much. I love the DMs that I'm getting. Keep them coming in because it really helps to formulate the topics every Friday. If there's something that you want a little bit more knowledge on or a little bit more insight, drop it in because I'd love to share that on one of our YouTube lives. Sedge has his finger pointing for the people.
One shameless plug, starting next week, if you are an agent who's looking for some type of community, we are going to be piggybacking these lives with a mastermind. So a Zoom call for anyone who, this is not just for people within our brokerage, it's open to any agent who's looking for a little bit of community. We'll be breaking down the things that we're learning from these master classes with Steve. And so if you're interested, we're going to be starting that next week. Mohammed, Moise, Colson, and I, we're going to be hosting it, and more details to follow.
Love that. And so what time is that going to be, Sedge? Is that going to be like at 11 a.m. every Friday after our 10 a.m. lives?
To start off, we're going to do every other Friday. Since you're going live at 10, you know, afterwards you get a little bit of a break, and then you come back. We'll be hosting at 11:30. It's going to be super casual. And later on down the road, we'll think of having something live, something social.
And can you do me a favor? And this is not a plug just because of the brokerage that we're a part of, but really ultimately, these are two teachers who have gone through the gamut of real estate. Sharing is what we love to do. Seeing people win is what we love to see. If there's someone that you know in your office, in your community that you think would benefit from hopping on one of these YouTube lives, invite them, because I want for you to also start creating your community of professional development, not even professional development, but just like having a shoulder to lean on when things get hard. So invite those agents to these YouTube lives, have them see what we're trying to build. Let's build a freaking amazing community where we want to make sure that we're setting everyone up for success and we're cheering on everyone to win. Thank you everyone for listening, for watching. Thank you so much for Sedge for just being a phenomenal human being. You all know the drill. This Friday, this weekend, for the rest of the year, for the rest of your lives, be great, be kind, everyone. And we'll see you next Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern on YouTube Live. Peace out, everyone. Cheers. Schwap.